Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Career Expert Roundtable. I am Bill, the company's expert, and with me, as always, is Abby from Lifeworkbalance. How you doing, Abby?
I'm doing well, Bill. And
Awesome.
as all of our streams go, we're hoping that you get in the comments and you start putting your questions in there so Bill and I can answer them in real time. And to kind of start us off, Bill and I were chatting earlier about some of the statistics around when people probably last started searching for a job. So, at least here in the United States, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average amount of time that people spend in a job is about 4 years. It's like 3.6 years for women and 4.2 years for men. So if that's you, the last time you were probably looking for a job was somewhere near the 2021, 2022 page. So it's probably been a while since you started the interview process. Bill, did we look up the information about Canada?
No, we didn't. We talked about you gave some stats. I think that was just for Colorado, wasn't it? Or was that
For
for
the US
all
as
the
a
US?
whole. Yep. And then
Oh,
I've worked for some organizations where our highest amount of turnover occurs within the first year. So it
hmm.
seems like you get into a job, you either decide you like it and you stay for about 4 years, or you decide it's not a great fit and you leave within the first year. So
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what that like number is for the people who are watching. Are you one of the people who, has been in your job for 3 to 4 years, or are you the type of person recently who maybe got a new job and you've just decided it's not the best fit for you and you're looking for something new?
Yeah, let us know in the chat. And so what that means is that if it's about 4 years, 3 to 4 years, 4 years ago, it was 2021. It was coming down off COVID. Uh, First of all, you've got the technology and the fact that the world has just changed in 4 years. So job search is a little bit different than it was in 2021. And
Mhm.
on top of that, in 2021, as I said, COVID was a big thing. That also changed job search. And, we've kind of pretty much moved beyond that now.
Yeah.
So once again, that has caused some changes. So what has changed, Abby, from your perspective? What are the big sort of things that have come in since 2021 when the average person was looking for their job last? Um, how has job search or corporate recruitment morphed or changed? Have you noticed anything?
Honestly, I think the biggest change is how people are interviewing. I think the majority of interviews involve some sort of virtual aspect, if not the entire process being virtual. There are some organizations that use one way video interviewing, which can really be a trip if you've tried it. I personally have never used it as like a formal interview process, but
Is
I'm
that the thing where you record yourself? They get you to
it
record
is.
yourself and then send in the file or something like that?
Yep. So
Hmm.
they usually like the recruiter will send you a link that says, "Congratulations, you've made it through the first round." They want you to click a link that then brings you to a platform where you then can record your answers to common interview questions. And then I don't know what goes on in the background because I haven't used it as a recruiter,
Hmm.
but I'm assuming that there's an AI element that analyzes people's responses, like it transcribes it and then analyzes it. And then there's probably an aspect of where like a real person is listening to your responses. Some of these platforms allow you to re-record your answers and others give you one chance. So it really depends on the platform that you're using, but it's kind of I don't like it because it just feels so hands off and so impersonal. Like we're just making these candidates jump through these hoops to prove that they're the best fit for the role. And I think the human element of interviewing is really important because a computer can make decisions, but it's not going to make the same type of decisions as a person. So I'm not a huge fan of those types of interviews, but I don't think they're extremely popular. I think large organizations probably use them just because of the amount of applications they receive, but not every organization will use it. But I do think the virtual interviews, having a phone interview or then a video interview that is two way,
Hmm.
live, is very popular. And many of the jobs these days are engaging a full virtual experience when it comes to interviewing. Some of them are incorporating a hybrid experience and some are still doing in person only. But I would say the majority of them use virtual.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a rather cynical view of this because, from my perspective, I suspect that the motivation behind these is it serves the employer or the interviewer much more than it serves the candidate. It's basically, for that. That's the purpose it's for. For example, if a candidate is a non-starter, they've just said something that pretty much eliminates them right towards the beginning of the interview, then the interviewer now can just not watch the rest of the videos or the rest of the video, you know what I mean? And thus save their time, right? I mean, it's, so I find it very self-serving now. I mean, look, it's part of business to try and maximize their efficiency and all this. I mean, that's understandable, but the more that it serves the employer and less the candidate, the more I suspect there'll be a certain amount of pushback to that. People won't want to play this game. They'll opt out. They'll seek alternative methods of getting employed, things like this. So it's interesting to see where it's going to go, because the more we go down this path, it's obviously changing the dynamic, but the more effort that's put on the candidate, the more effect this is going to have. And, it might have some interesting side effects, where we see this happen.
I agree. And it, automatically creates some barriers to entry. You might have someone who is a perfect fit for the job and can do the job really well, but just doesn't have access to a personal laptop or a computer. And they only have their phone, and maybe they don't have a quiet private space that they can record these types of interview answers for. Those are also considerations for virtual interviews that are two-way as well. But there are some things that could eliminate candidates who are really great fits that they don't have much control over. So that's, something to keep in mind is if you do engage in a virtual interview, whether it's one way or two way, that you do your best to try to find a space that is quiet. You try to use a device that is going to be reliable. You try to have access to reliable internet. So one of my biggest pieces of advice for people in these types of situations is to use your local library. At least here in the United States, our local libraries will usually have like a private, meeting room or co-working space that you can reserve in advance. So as soon as you have an interview coming up, if you know that your, house is chaotic, or you have a barking dog, or you have young children, or something like that is going to cause some disturbance in the background and be a distraction for you, reserve a room, a private space in a library. They likely have high quality internet. They might even have a laptop that you can check out and borrow. And then you'll be able to kind of present yourself in the most professional way for these virtual interviews.
You don't have to bribe your family to keep it down for an hour or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate, this is an interactive Q&A. So this is going out live on my channel. It's going out live on Abby's channel, a couple of Abby's channels. So if you're seeing this, get in the chat. Let us know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with. We'll do our best to answer your question. Anything related to job search or careers. That's why we're doing this stuff. And we have a hard stop today in about 20 minutes. So get your questions in, and we'll get to them before we have to break. So yeah, the other elephant in the room, of course, for what we're talking about, the difference in hiring between now and 2021 is also, I think the elephant in the room is AI, right? That's the big thing that's really come to prominence. Did they have it in 2021? I think they might have, but the point is it's really taken over now, and it has changed quite a few things with regard to job search. Do you want to give us your thoughts on that, Abby?
Yes. So I do, I couldn't tell you the exact time frame when AI was introduced to the world. It's probably been around for a while. But from a generative AI perspective that was open to the majority of people, that's been a more recent thing. And everyone's using it. Employers are using it. Candidates are using it. And if you're not using it yet, your life will be much easier if you do. So from a job search perspective, you can use it to tailor your documents. If you have a long resume or a generic resume, you can paste that into a generative AI platform and ask it to tailor it to a specific job posting that you also paste into that generative AI platform. You can use it for interview prep. You can have it generate potential interview questions. You can have it analyze your responses to interview questions. There's a function with ChatGPT where you can, do voice conversation. So you can talk to it and it will then respond to you. So you can do mock interviews. So really the options are unlimited when it comes to how you might be able to use AI for your job search prep, your interview prep, things like that. Google has a specific AI platform called Interview Warmup, which will
Hmm.
allow you to record your answers. And it's questions that are very specific to more technical jobs like project managers, software engineers, things like that. And so it's questions that Google has put together. You then submit your response verbally, it transcribes it, and then it analyzes it for you. It doesn't necessarily give you super detailed responses like you should say this instead of that, but it notifies you of how many filler words you might use. It talks about the themes that you are, indicating in your responses, which can be really helpful. Um,
Yeah. Do you beyond okay? So beyond the stuff you've mentioned, do you have any other recommendations of tools beyond ChatGPT and this other thing? I forget what you said. That what was called that it was that
yeah.
was the specific tool there. Any other recommendations for tools for people to use?
So I like generative AI. That's what I use frequently, which is ChatGPT. And my new preference is Grok, Grok, and that's through X's platform. And there are some other AI platforms. I think there's one called JobScan. I don't remember it's like jobscan.co or something like that. And you can actually submit a job posting and upload your resume, and it will analyze it for you to say what percentage of your resume will make it through the applicant tracking system, and will give you a score and suggestions on how to improve it. I primarily use the generative AI, where it's me communicating with the system, but there are tons of other platforms out there that we don't even know exist yet that are in the process of getting created and are being used for our job search.
Yeah, I would say ChatGPT is the big one. Like if you're just getting into this, ChatGPT, get on ChatGPT, just create an account. It's very easy. It's free, and then just start playing around with it. I see there's a couple of questions here. Let's just jump to these so we don't get backlogged here. Dave says, should people pay to get their resumes done? I, being someone who paid somebody four figures to do my resume like 15 years ago or something, I would say no, actually, to be honest with you. In the sense that for most people, the days of taking one static resume and just sending it out like to every job you apply for are kind of like over, now that AI is here, what we were talking about. Um, it's the age where you're going to want to customize pretty much everything you send out, all your cover letters, all your resumes. And having a resume you've paid a lot of money for, I can tell you from being in that situation that psychologically it makes you not want to touch it. And that's not a good thing. I think people should be open to customizing their stuff and want to go as far in that direction as possible. So from that perspective, I would say no. I mean, there's still a lot of people out there that can help you. They can help you create the resume, or you could they can determine like how you would phrase something properly for what you intend to use it for. So there's definitely some value out there that it might be worth paying for. But having one static resume you use for everything, I don't what do you think, Abby? I think the days are over for that.
Yeah, I'm so glad Dave asked this question, because there are so many people out there who want to press the easy button and have someone
Hmm.
else do their resume for them. And I think it is a terrible idea to pay someone to do your resume. There might be certain cases where having an expert, let's say that I want to apply to a very specific industry and a very specific high level competitive role. It might be helpful to get someone's insight for that. But I think there are so many tools out there to modify your own resume, and you will then know it backwards and forwards. So if you're in an interview and you have had someone else write your resume for you, you submit it, and they ask you a specific question about your resume, you might not know the answer to it because you didn't actually make that document. So I do not recommend paying someone to do your resume for you. I offer services that review resumes. And so I like to sit down with people and I go through their resume. I talk about formatting. I talk about how they might be able to word certain bullet points. I, talk about the application process as a whole, the importance of having certain sections on your resume and the order of it, the psychology of the review of the resume from a hiring manager and recruiter. So
And
like
you've been on the other side of the table, so you understand the mentality of someone who's going to be looking at these. So that,
exactly.
I imagine, has some value in itself.
Yes, but I do not recommend paying someone to write your resume for you. I don't think it's worth it. I think that it's going to go through too many iterations with applications moving forward. I think that you don't know your resume well enough to then speak to it if you have someone else write it for you. Many cases, they might like put locks on the formatting of it. And so then you can't actually change it yourself. So there are so many reasons to not pay someone to do it. I'd recommend working with someone who can give you some insight and advice, but not write your resume for you.
Yes, I agree with that. Sultry says, I'm a fan of AI. AI should be helping us get a job versus not. But I'm hearing if you're using AI to create your resume, it doxes you or hinders you. How true is this? I haven't heard of it doxing you. I mean, doxing is a very bad thing. If I'm understanding your use of that term, perhaps I'm not, it seems. But the bottom line is it's a tool. It's here. It's not this be all end all that I think that I hear some people saying it is. It's going to change the world forever. And oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's doomsday. It's like, no, it's not. It's just a fancier version of autocomplete. It's incredibly useful.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've heard, and I've also heard this on this live stream show, is that it's kind of creating a bit of a divide between the candidates that are using it and the candidates that aren't using it. And the ones that aren't using it are really losing in terms of they're not being selected.
Yes.
That's kind of my take on it. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah,
Abby?
well, I think when it comes to using AI, what will hinder people or dox them, so to speak, is not, how do I want to put this? Using it as the final version, not editing it, not reviewing it for accuracy or consistency. There are some things that AI does. Like I think there's been a couple of news articles floating around about the like large hyphen that AI will use that is not generally used by people in communicating. So there are things that it can create for you that if you just copy and paste it and you use it as is, can then hinder you. So what's
Just
important?
give it a command that says, don't use the large hyphen, use the standard hyphen. Like that'll be an extra little command you put in your processing of your resume, and then it will
Yeah.
eliminate that. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I guess you learn these things as you go, right?
Right. Well, and honestly, when you're using AI, it should truly be your first draft. It should not be your final draft. It should be your first draft that you use to help you streamline your process. And so if you're not using AI, what you're doing instead is using all this brain power and time and effort to make these changes that a computer system can do in the split second, that you then can spend your precious brain power to then tailor and modify so that the information is accurate and you'll be able to speak to it in the future.
Absolutely. Danielle Jones says, I just did my first mock interview with an oil and gas company. A mock interview with the oil and gas company. I aced my resume portion, but struggled connecting my experience to the questions they asked. Now I know what I need to work on. Okay, that's good. Usually a mock interview, you kind of do it by yourself or with like a friend or something.
And sometimes what organizations are actually doing is they might have a recruiter who does a mock interview with the candidates to just prep them for the interview process. So maybe that's what happened as well. One of the things that I would recommend doing is use AI to analyze the job posting and your resume and ask it to find blind spots or gaps in your experience that you may need to speak to in the actual interview. So if I'm applying to a specific type of role and I put that job and my resume in the job post or in the like prompt box in generative AI and ask it to identify gaps in my experience that could come up during the interview, that will then also give me some way to prepare for those questions that I'm not expecting or situations that I haven't encountered in the past. So I'm fully prepared.
Yeah, I would beware too if a company is offering to do a mock interview. Isn't that kind of like sitting down with a journalist when they say, oh, this is off the record? And then you shoot your mouth off, and then next thing you know, you're quoted saying something idiotic. And yeah, so, it might not really be technically a mock interview if you're doing it with the company.
And maybe there is lots of colleges and universities will have organizations come in and do mock interviews with students who have not yet applied formally to the organizations, just to give them a more realistic experience with the mock interviews. So maybe it was that too.
Yeah, just take them to the cleaner, just to give them a traumatic experience about how it's going to go. There you go, just to put your mind at ease. Alex says, hi, you were right. There is a matter of time till someone gives you a job. After a matter of time, Continental Portal site read my CV and gave my CV to the recruiting company, And then 2nd May, I start. Well, congratulations there, Alex. That's great news, and
Yeah.
I'm glad it's working out.
Congrats, Alex.
DJ Mon Gamers says, before and during COVID, they were using the recordings, but what I have seen is bulking, for example, which you answer some text questions, and then a 30-minute interview where you answer for multiple jobs.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I really think they're taking the efficiency thing really far. I mean, I can see that for like sort of low level jobs, maybe,
Mhm.
sort
Mhm.
of entry level, maybe possibly even at the professional level, but probably not. I could see
And a
that.
large organization who has many positions to fill.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense from an efficiency perspective and is actually good for candidates because maybe I apply to a job that I think I'm qualified for and I ignore others that maybe I don't think I'm qualified for, or maybe I don't think I want to do. And if they then say, well, you're actually not qualified for this one, but you are qualified for these, then it opens up some additional opportunities that I may not have self-selected.
But DJ Monover Games, if you didn't feel like you were treated like cattle enough, this is now the next level of that. So
Ah, and
right
that's why I
on.
just don't really like the technolo I don't know, the technology movement with interviews is that there's such a human aspect of interviewing. You've got to find the right person who's going to be the right fit for the job, the right fit for the manager, the right fit for the team, the culture. And you cannot do that in this type of like bulk assembly line type process. So it'll be interesting to see what comes next after that step. Maybe the very first step is this, bulk interview, and
Well, we could
then
take humans out of the process completely. We don't need recruiters. We could just have AI do everything and then see the quality of the results that are produced. That's where
yeah,
things look like they're going. Now, maybe when we get there, it'll reiterate or demonstrate the need for the interviewers doing a great job, and then
yes,
you could pit them against each other and really see the difference that, like as you said, Abby, the personal experience, being able to really get a feel for the other person, how important that is. Really, I think that in some cases that'll definitely be make or break. Other times I suspect it may not be as valuable as we think for certain positions, if they're like entry level, or an employer treats their employees like they're a dime a dozen. Maybe it really doesn't add a lot of value in that situation. But I think it'll be revealed when we see how far they can take this.
yes, yes. And there will be many people who are pleased if it's just a computer picking the most highly qualified applicant, because there are people who are like, I hate the interview process. I hate having to talk about myself. But that probably means you're not going to be in that job for very long if it's truly just based off of qualifications, because it's not taking into account the people aspect.
Well, look on the bright side. I mean, I'm sure that like everybody could tell a tale of going to a job interview where they have some arrogant, condescending person on the, like staring down at them, making them feel like they're this tall, maybe saying insulting things to them or disrespectful things. And, I mean, I'm sure everybody's got their own story of that. You might have multiple stories of that, Now, if this means that those are a thing of the past, maybe it might not be 100% negative. I mean, it really depends on the details of how you do this stuff. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, and just warning everyone, we got about 5 minutes before we cut off our stream because we've got that hard
Yes.
stop at the 30-minute mark. So I think we can make it through some of these other questions that have come up.
Yeah, this is probably good for questions. Unfortunately, I will be live on Wednesday if people have more questions they want to talk to me. Do you do live streams, Abby, on your channel, like just yourself?
Not consistently.
Okay.
This is my consistent one, and I am trying to do a more consistent schedule on Tuesdays, just because we do this on Mondays, but not consistently.
Well, if you do any this week, I think there's some demand for some questions here. So
Yes.
so check Abby's channel if you want to ask her more stuff than we have time for today. Okay, so next question. Says a Jotman says, hey, I have a role and cultural fit interview tomorrow for a senior software engineer. Can you give me some last minute tips? Thanks a lot. Here's what I would say is software engineer, like, no offense to software engineers, but generally speaking, their weak spot is the social skills. So if you have the technical chops, and you can hold your own from a technical perspective, but you go in there and you're friendly and you're pleasant and, you're someone that they would want to work with. You're approachable, you're agreeable, all that kind of stuff. And where you end the interview, they end the interview, and they're left with this impression like, wow, that person's awesome, I'd like to work with them. Mm-hmm. Then I think you could really knock it out of the park, because those skills are more rare on when we get to jobs like software engineer.
I agree. And I think the other thing you can consider is using generative AI. Paste the job posting into the prompt box, maybe go into the company's website and get their about us, their mission statement, their vision, their values, things like that. Paste that into the prompt box as well. Say, based on the information above, please generate, 30 potential culture and role and culture fit interview questions that I could be prepared for this upcoming interview. And if you know who's going to be there, maybe it's going to be your future supervisor, maybe it's someone from HR, put that information in there as well. The more specific you can be, the better the responses it will generate for you.
I know that they're going to talk about technical stuff in the job interview. And I know that in some IT interviews, they do ask like technical questions, or you have to do a technical kind of evaluation, like a test. But job interviews are all about who you are as a person. A lot of people, just remember, a lot of people can do the technical stuff. They have the technical chops to do the job. The question now is, all the people that they're interviewing for the job, which one does the boss want to work with? Okay, that's what the competition is really about. So go in there, be pleasant, be friendly, and be that person, and you will maximize your chances, in my opinion.
Yes, and they'll probably focus on questions related to communication, conflict resolution, problem solving, those types of big themes. So that's what I would prepare some stories for.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, someone says, great career chat. Thanks. I work jobs while pursuing my career. I like how you put jobs and career in quotes. In these jobs, I notice that I'm often outside of the work culture. People are angry and competitive for no reason. What do I do? Well, you one up them at the angry and competitive thing. You make your presence felt, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. Make sure that they can't ignore you. No, I'm just kidding. You gotta gauge the culture there. You gotta gauge what these people place value on and what they consider normal. You go to one place and they consider it normal that everybody speaks in a very, sort of non-threatening tone and doesn't say anything remotely disrespectful. You go to another place, it's normal for them to slam their fist down on somebody's desk and start shouting when you have a request. You know what I mean? So you got to gauge how these people operate and then determine if you can fit within that. And the answer will not always be yes. Now, if you can, just try and adapt to it, right? And go with the flow. But if it really crosses that line with what you're comfortable with and you can't adjust to it, then maybe it's time to move on and look for something else. You know what I mean? Not all places are good places.
Well, and I just put in the chat Amazon link to the book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Give that a read, and it will give you some really good insights on things to do for yourself. One of the very first habits is be proactive. In fact, it's habit 1. And it's thinking about what you control versus what you don't control. You don't control other people, but you do control you and your reaction to those other people. And then if you move through the book and you get to habit 5, that really helps build relationships and rapport with other people, and ultimately get you to habit 6, which is synergize, where you come together collaboratively to come up with, answers and solutions that are better than what you could have come up with by yourself or what other people could have come up by themselves. So read that book. It's one of my favorite business and life books out there.
Okay, we're really approaching that hard stop at 3:30. So I just want to say, okay, unfortunately today we have to cut it short. So for the people that ask questions, sorry, we'd love to get to your questions, but we have to end here because we have time commitments and stuff. But we will be back. We'll certainly be back in 2 weeks. I will be back on my channel on Wednesday live, and Abby may be live this week, but go to her channel to see if there's anything scheduled there, right? That's kind of, I don't want to speak for you, but that's...
Okay. I'm actually not going to be live tomorrow. I've got a training I'm facilitating tomorrow. But if you do have questions, I try to post on my community pretty frequently. comment on my videos and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can, or just send me a direct email. I'll put my email in the chat. I'll do that right now.
Yeah, that's good. If you want Abby's
shoot me an email, and I would love to give you some advice or feedback. And if you want to schedule a session to help you prepare for your interview or your job search process, let me know.
Perfect. Okay, listen, thanks everyone. We really appreciate you being here. Sorry we didn't get to the last few questions, but we'll be back, and I'll be live on Wednesdays. So the people that ask questions, you can come and ask me them again on Wednesday. I'll give you a full and complete answer. And thanks to everyone. Check out Abby's channel, Life Work Balance. There's a link to, if you're watching this on my channel, there's a link to it in the description box under the live stream. So check that out. A lot of great stuff. I think Abby's perspective complements mine on a lot of things. So great resource. And we will be back together, I believe, in 2 weeks from today for the next one of these.
Yep.
So thanks.
And if you're watching on my channel, check out Bill's channel. Like he said, we have a lot of similar, thought processes and opinions, but we also have some different ones. So it's always good to take advice from multiple sources so that you can pick the advice that resonates best with you.
Absolutely. And that's good advice across the board. Get your information from a variety of sources, not just one, and you will go farther. Okay. Thanks, everybody. You guys take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.